Blog Talk Radio.
This is an Awakening Zone presentation, Human Empowerment Radio and Media for the 21st Century and Beyond.
Good afternoon and good evening all around the world. Welcome to the Clear Vibration. This is Thursday, January 6th, 2011. I'm your host, Joe Rombolo, broadcasting live from the Awakening Zone, the International Radio Network for Empowered Awakening. For the next 90 minutes, I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. I certainly hope that everyone is doing well this evening. Just know that everything is in perfect order, whether it appears to be or not. I want to thank you all for being here live tonight, and also say thank you to those of you who are listening live to the archive. I also know that many of you have educational entertainment choices, and I am grateful that you have chosen to spend some of your time with us right here on the Clear Vibration in this moment of now, whenever that may be. If you'd like to be notified each week of upcoming shows and other events, please go to www.healingtheuniverse.com and register there. That's www.healingtheuniverse.com. You can also find me on Facebook. Drop by, say hi, and send a friend request. For those of you who may be new to this show, the Clear Vibration is a celebration of the divine human, a celebration of the divinity that is each one of us. What are we pretending not to know? What have we humans hidden from ourselves to allow us to effectively play this game called the Planet Earth Project? It is our divinity. We have each hidden our divinity. Now, what if we are all ascended masters in human form, and it is we who are teaching those on the other side of the veil? My truth says that in actuality, we are both teacher and student, and so are they. This is not to diminish those on the other side. It is to recognize and celebrate all of us who have so courageously chosen to incarnate time and time again, to have the human experience. Is there anyone who can unequivocally say and prove that we are not ascended masters in human form? It would indeed take a master to choose this experience over and over, for the experience and for the benefit of human, spiritual, galactic, and universal expansion and evolution. I celebrate you and me, and if you so choose, I ask that you celebrate yourselves. Now, this show is also about the integration of spirit and human, and that for me is the process of ascension, and that is the 2012. In addition, it is about the practical application of divinely inspired information in your life. Now, I have a wonderful show in store for you this evening with my special guest, internationally known author, lecturer, and channeler of Kryon, Carroll. But before we get started, I just want to remind you that everything that I say here tonight is my truth. It does not have to be your truth. Now, there are many flavors of truth, and what I speak is only one of them. It is possible that my truth will evolve during this illusion that we call time as I remember more and more. My truth is yours for the taking. I offer it to you for your discernment. Take all of it, take some of it, take none of it. It is your choice. It is always your choice. And as always, your questions, comments, and participation are welcome. So please do light up the switchboard by calling into 714-364-4353. That number again is 714-364-4353. So now if you're all ready, let's get on with this show. My special guest tonight is an internationally known lecturer, author, and channel. He's been channeling the group of energies known as Kryon for 21 years and regularly speaks before audiences all over the world, some of the largest being in Eastern and Western Europe. He's spoken in at least 18 different countries, including Israel, where he was during the outbreak of violence at the end of 2000. He regularly presents in Moscow and Kiev to sold-out audiences, and last year for the first time presented in Kazakhstan. He's co-authored with Jan Tober the first two books on the Indigo Children, which are the Indigo Children and an Indigo Celebration, and the latest one, published by Hay House, The Indigo Children 10 years later. He's also authored the 12 books of the Kryon writings, including the very latest, Kryon Book 12, The 12 Layers of DNA, which we'll be discussing this evening. Now, these 15 books have been translated into 24 languages worldwide. He's been invited and is channeled 7 times at the United Nations at the Society for Enlightenment and Transformation at the UN building in New York City. His message is always one of love, empowerment, and unity for humanity. Mixed with scientific validations, humor, and personal stories, his lectures are favorites within the New Age community. If you have not had the pleasure of attending one of the engaging, educational, inspirational, transformational, and entertaining Kryon events in person, I highly recommend that you do so. Tonight, I am excited to welcome him back to the Clear Vibration for the first time on the Awakening Zone radio network, my friend Lee Carroll. Lee,
wow.
How are you this evening?
Good. I'm just sitting here I can hardly wait to talk, actually. The Awakening Zone, it feels good.
Well, thanks.
And it feels good. It's a zone where we can do stuff. Awaken.
Exactly. That's what we're all about here.
This is so cool, Joe. Does everybody listening now know the involvement of how this all came together and who's going to do what and all these things?
Well,
you
know what?
Like tuning in and hearing you.
Well, I don't know. It's just one of those things. You never know who's going to be tuning in and where they're coming from and how they heard about it.
We got to tell about some of the hosts you got coming up.
Well, okay. Let's do that. Let's talk about some of the hosts. God, I hope I don't forget them. I hope I don't leave one out.
Putting you on the spot here. Well, okay. First of all, there's you.
There's me. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and another. There's this guy named Lee Carroll.
That's right, and it'll be the first time I've ever hosted any kind of a show at all, and I have something that I want to do on my show. It's different. It says I want to interview the guys like you. Who's my first guest?
I am.
That's right. Do you see how we have segued into a promotion for my show?
Exactly.
Wasn't this clever?
Well, it was really great. I was going to do this later on, but we might as well handle it now.
Okay. Now, do we have my good friend Jeff Hoppy's doing stuff? Is that right?
Jeff Hoppy's going to be doing a show once a month, and our other good friend Pepper Lewis.
Absolutely.
Is going to be doing a show monthly, and our other good friend from Hawaii, Kahu Fred Sterling's going to do 4 shows a year.
Kahu is such a good guy. You're going to love him. And of all of those people, and I will tell you, the one that sticks out to me who has had such an amazing journey that since I have known him is Kahu. Because Kahu, he developed this signature cell healing process, which really is a DNA-based kind of a... He's talking about information in the DNA, and he's talking about how you can access it and heal yourself. So, and it's profound. He's got a course in it, and he's been teaching it in Russia and all over the world. Well, he had, and I don't think I'm giving anything away because most people know, but he had a stroke.
He's
and
talked
literally
about
the doctor said,
about it.
Yeah, okay, well, the doctor said, you're done, Jack, basically. Mm-hmm. And he just looked him in the eye and knew better. And it took him a little while. Using his own process, he's fully and completely recovered. And so here's a guy that not only teaches a process that's esoteric, but used it and did it. And so, now, I like that.
I like that, too. There's nothing.
So I celebrate Fred for this.
Well, there's nothing better than teaching from your own experience.
Oh, yeah. He knows what it feels like,
Absolutely.
You know what? He knows what it feels like to get well. And I don't know many who are teaching what that feels like. You say, you give them the steps and you leave, and they're on their own, and nobody's telling, okay, here's what you're going to feel. Here's going to be the obstacles. Here's what your depression is going to cause, be caused from, and here's where you're going to doubt yourself. So, and somebody most of us aren't able to hold people's hands during the process. We just give them stuff and leave. So. Right,
yeah. But anyway, so Fred's going to be doing 4 shows a year on this network. It was really great. My last show of last year, he was my guest, and I had spoken with him about a week before that. And on the show, right near the end, he said, "If the offer is still available, I'll take you up on it." I want to do the 4 shows a year, and I said that's absolutely terrific.
Well, I tell you, of all of us, Fred has probably done more broadcast shows on the internet than any person I've ever met, because he had a television show for weekly from his Honolulu church for years. So he knows about this stuff.
He knows exactly what to do. He's got the staff to assist him. I know he's doing 2 shows a week now.
Yeah,
he's doing his.
He's good. Yeah, it'll be great. So that's what's going on here at Awakening Zone. I love it.
Well, we have more. We have more. As long as we're talking about hosts, let's take another couple of minutes, and I just want to tell everybody who else is going to be here. I can tell you on Mondays in the afternoon, and you can look up the times at awakeningzone.com, but 1 p.m. Central Time on Mondays, a really, really wonderful show called The D Spot. This is with dream therapist Kelly Walden. Wonderful. She's a great coach, great radio personality. She's been a guest on my show before.
God, I hope she talks about dreams. Everybody wants to know about dreams.
She does. She's really good. And not only does she talk about them and interpret them, she instructs people on how they can do their own work.
Oh, that's great.
So that's really cool. And then on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, Joni Winberg and Mike Mastrossi are doing a show called Single Again, Now What? And this is a show. This is an encouragement and empowerment show for divorced and widowed people with kids, and all single parents. And I've known Joni for several years. She does fabulous work, and Mike is a family law attorney. It's going to be a very good personal growth and development, very grounded kind of a show. And that's on Mondays. On Tuesdays right now, during the day, I believe it's at noon Central Standard Time, Kathleen Gage, who is an expert, metaphysically and spiritually based internet marketing expert. She's going to be doing a show called Daily Awareness, and it's going to be about spirituality in business.
Wow, needed.
Which is really going to be smoking. We have a weekly show on Wednesdays early in the afternoon, and this is coming from Germany. So if anybody out there is from Germany, this show is going to be in German. Wolfing von Rohr, who, if you're from Germany, you probably know who Wolfing is, but he's going to be doing his show. It'll be prime time in Germany, but it's going to be early afternoon here. And Pepper Lewis will be doing her monthly show on Monday afternoons as well at a later time. Also on Mondays, we have the Crimson Circle shows. That's where Jeff Hoppe and Linda Hoppe will be doing their monthly show, plus 3 of the other Crimson Circle certified teachers will be doing monthly shows during that time slot. And then in March, we have 5 Wednesdays. We have 5 Wednesdays in March. Okay. And so on March the 30th, that's when this guy named Lee Carroll will premiere his show called New Beginnings.
I better put that on my calendar.
that would be a great idea. And then let me just kind of wrap it up here. On Thursdays, we have several shows on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every Thursday, Sandy Sedgbeer is doing a show, and her show is called Conversation at the Cutting Edge. And of course,
she's great, wonderful friend. Great. She's wonderful. Yeah.
She's great. And then, of course, the Clear Vibration every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central. And then we have another show from Germany, the 4th Sunday of every month. His name is Dr. Joachim Wolfram, and he's doing a show called The New Way, and he is just fabulous. His show is going to be in German and in English as well. We also have a show coming up from Romania on Saturdays. Of course, that's going to hit in the U.S. That's going to hit at like 4 o'clock in the morning. But if you want to stay up or stay up from the night before or get up early and you know Romanian, check out Sylvia Marin's show. And then Alfred Halaz and Timinia Thamazi are going to be doing a show in Hungarian the fourth Saturday of each month. So that's pretty much the lineup right now. We have a lot happening here at the Awakening Zone. I know some of you are tuned in via Blog Talk Radio, and that's perfectly okay. We would prefer, if it's not an inconvenience, that you tune into the show via www.awakeningzone.com. And by next week, we'll actually have our own chat room at the Awakening Zone, and so we're just continuing to upgrade the website and the network, and we're launched, and we're here, and we're ready to rock and roll.
I love it, and I want to let's just remind people for a moment, just to suspend while you're listening for a moment, and just think of this. 10 years ago, this would not be possible. And one of the reasons it wouldn't be possible, only one of them, of course, is the technology of the Internet. This allows us to have a broadcast almost like radio, but not exactly. Mm-hmm. It's better because it goes all over the earth through the World Wide Web instantly, excuse me, and is then archived later for you to just come on a website and review it. Now, think for a moment, for those of you who remember radio, this would not have been possible for numbers of reasons. The first, you're tied in with sponsors who wouldn't let you do it. Mm-hmm. You're tied in with those executives who are vying for airtime and saying nobody's going to tune in, nobody's going to be interested in spiritual things. You know, you name it. This would not have been possible without the Internet. And I say this for those who are perhaps listening on the Internet for the first time, don't know what Internet is all about, and also for those who are very familiar with it and realizing what it is. Sometimes it gets a bad rap. They say that, you know, like something like 80% of the pages on the Internet are porn. I believe it. And you don't have to look at any of them. This is your choice. And it really does down to the fact that unlike radio or television, which is broadcast into your home, you go on your computer and with your fingers you decide what you're going to look at and what you're going to listen to. And that is a wonderful thing. And we have it in spades here, as they say. And so, Joe, you and all those who put this together be congratulated for something that is unique on the planet, a spiritual network like this. It's going to do great things, my friend.
Lee, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, especially coming from you. It really means a whole lot, and thank you so much for being a big part of it.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. You know, and it's, you know, when I was getting ready to book my first guest on my first regular show on the Awakening Zone, of course your name was on my list. and the thing that's really interesting about that is that you were the only name on my list.
Yeah, you were having a moment. You were having dementia for a moment. I was the only person you could remember.
Yeah, that's it. No,
and that was because we've had pizza together and wine.
That's it.
Probably.
That's it. At Filippi's.
At Filippi's.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but there was a reason why you were the first name on my list, and as I had mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, there's so many of us here at the Awakening Zone who are directly or indirectly doing this work because of you. And so that means we get to blame you for it.
Yeah, right.
and you know, and of course that's a big part of what has brought us all together right here at the Awakening Zone. I mean, you know, Steve Rother and my spiritual co-conspirators here on the network, Jeff and Linda Hoppy, and Gene Adrian, who's been on the Steve's virtual light broadcast and has done work with Steve Rother, and Sandy Sedgebeer and Pepper Lewis. You know, there's many of us who have been nudged into doing this work because of you. And like I said, we're not going to hold it against you.
I want you to let's look at this for a minute, because this is a way for me to now promote something else that we're going to talk about, and the fact that right now people tuning into this are going to think, here's some guys and some ladies or whatever here's some people who have got still another spiritual bent on something, and they're going to hawk their wares, they're going to sell you books, they're going to do readings, they're going to do all these things. It's just another box, you know. It's like gospel radio, only it's New Age. And so, and we're no different than anybody else. And this is where I'm going to tell you we are. And if you start listening in and give it a chance and listen to a couple of programs, you're going to find out something. We don't compete with each other. We have our own work, we have our own books, and we don't compete. And yet we have no central doctrine. We have no central prophet. We have none of these things that are what I would call a 3D paradigm of religious belief, because it isn't religious. This is spiritual work. We're all celebrating one general truth, that we have divinity inside us, and that God is bigger than anything we've ever been told. And it goes way beyond any box you're ever going to get into on this planet. It doesn't make us right and other people's wrong. It gives you an idea of something you could look at, perhaps that you've never considered before, that really will feed your soul. And if you've come from a standard church or whatever, it's going to enhance that experience. I'm not going to pull you out of some other box or, steal your faith or any of these things that we've all been accused of. We're all together in a situation where we can sit on a stage together, and we won't be afraid of what the other person's going to sell or say. We're not competing. And we don't, we celebrate each other's lives. We're not out to, beat each other up and try to get the first dollar in the first book and all these things that everybody's used to in a paradigm that has forever been the old energy of the planet. It is different now.
There's, Lee, there's really no doubt about that. And really, as I saw this network come together, I mean, that just became, if it wasn't clear to me before, it became very, very clear to me because of the way that this whole thing really came together. And of course, I was at it, at the very beginning of it. It was an idea that I had, not that it was an original idea, but I just thought one day, it would really be cool to get a bunch of people that I know who are really gifted and talented, who have something to say and something to contribute, get them all together in one place to present these radio shows. And once the ball got rolling, and once I had my first conversation with Jeff and Linda about it, and they were just, wow, let's do this. Things just really started to happen, and it was like I'd pick up the phone and say, hey, what would you think about this? Yep, I'm in.
Yep. Why not?
And,
it's what we all have. Look, I was looking at my good friend Greg Braden. Now, there's a guest that you've had, and people already know him. I went to his Facebook page, and I took a look at what is it called, his friends, 59,000 people.
Geez.
And I got to thinking, where else on the planet could we do that?
Yeah.
Where we could have that many people from all over the world looking at his posts and what he has to say. And this is really a revolutionary kind of communication. I'm so glad to be with you.
Well, and I'm glad that you are here. This is just so terrific. And the thing is that this is really great. But as long as we're here, and before we really get into get into your book and everything, I just want to mention. I mentioned in my intro that if there's any listeners out there who have not attended one of your live events, and I'm telling you, I'm not saying this to them for you to make money. God bless you. I hope you do. But it's not about that. It's about them having that Lee Carroll Kryon experience. I really suggest to them that they treat themselves, really give themselves a gift, and make plans to attend one of those. I've told you this before, Lee, that first time that I saw was at one of your events live was in July of 2004. We were in that hotel ballroom, that Holiday Inn in St. Louis here.
That's right.
And I was fortunate enough to have met you and Patty 2 weeks earlier in California, and I was with a really good friend of mine, my friend Kim. She and I started channeling at the same time, and she's still one of my closest friends. We were sitting next to each other, and when you began the channel, when Kryon said, "Greetings, this is Kryon of Magnetic Service," there was a whoosh of energy from the front of the room that whooshed back over the crowd. And I mean, I had been doing this work for a while. That energy just whooshed over the crowd, and I looked at Kim, and she looked at me, and we both said, "What was that?" It was such an amazing, amazing experience. And I mean, I had experienced live channels before, and I had done them and all of that, And that was just that Kryon energy so much resonated with me, and it still does. And I really hope that our listeners, any of them who have not attended one of your events, please do that. As a matter of fact, you're going to be in Memphis, Tennessee next month. And I'm going to do everything that I can to come down and attend that event. That's only 5 hours from here.
That only 5 hours. That's a long drive, Joe. But it'd be great to see you. I haven't been to Memphis in years. There's some who say, you don't come to the Deep South that often, and I say, you're right, we don't. But I love it. I love it there. I've been to Memphis and Tennessee, and of course Atlanta, Georgia, Blue Ridge Mountains. So we do go down there in Louisiana. So I will be back in Memphis. That'll be great.
Hey, real quick, somebody in the chat room wants to know if you're going to be in Pennsylvania or near Pennsylvania.
Here's what I'll tell you. We go to Pennsylvania, and about every other year. I don't know what city, and I'm only privy at the moment to know what I'm doing through February, March actually, domestically. Actually, on the site, it's only through February. We do about 40 meetings domestically a year. The rest are all overseas. If you go on my website, you're going to see a lineage of where we're going. It's probably one of the biggest travel itineraries I've ever had, including countries I've never been in yet. And so I can't add the long answer. I don't know when, but I know we're going back. I just don't know what month yet. So please go on the site. It's easy to remember if you don't have to. I want to talk about the site for a minute, but if you go to Kryon.com/schedule, it's easy. It tells you where I'm going to be, and we try to update it 90 days out, as much as we can. So you pretty well know, at least within 60, where we're going to be, and so you can email and find out the details. And we try to put it on the web too. What I want to tell you, Joe mentioned something that I also want to get into because people are always suspicious about what we're doing. The reason people say, well, you're always dwelling on negative stuff. No, I'm not. I want to answer objections to human nature, because people tune in the first time saying, well, look at how does he make his money, and all of these things, and we're not afraid to talk about this. In fact, I want to, because people should know how, at least in my case, what my instructions have been and how this works. First of all, none of these hosts that you're hearing, including myself, including Joe, really get paid for this in the way that you might think. Nobody's, giving them a salary to do this. We're doing this, you might say, for promotional reasons. It's more than that. We're doing this to help people. We're hoping that the thousands will listen to us, and it'll give some thought and give them some things to think about, and perhaps stir the pot a little bit and to make them think about things they hadn't done before, and especially about how powerful they are. This is why we do it. But I want you to go to my website, Kryon.com, hit the front page, and you're going to see something that's unique. And I mean unique because you won't find it in church sites or anything else. And that is that there's no place to send us money. No place. We have hundreds and hundreds of pages on our website. There's not one where you send us money, except the place where you want to buy something. I'm not going to tell you where that is. You've got to go find it. Yeah, we sell books. That's what we do. I make my money selling books and seminars, and they're reasonable. You can be with me all day long for $100, and that's if you take a look at seminars and classes and everything else today, what they're costing in general. Take a look at this one, and you're going to find it's a good deal. We have a great time. There's science, there's channeling, there's all manner of things for everybody. We got a lot for the buck, if you want to say. That's how I do it, and that's all. So I'm not, I don't have a whole system in back of me where. And I shouldn't even say this, where widows have promised to give us money when they die, kind of a thing. But and the only reason I mentioned it is because that is one of the schemes, and this is not what we do. And so I want people to know these things, so that there's a little bit of integrity that goes into what we do, and maybe it's different than what you've been told. But I'm off of that now. All right.
Well, and there's one other thing I want to mention about your website. Let's mention to the listeners to forget about going to the website to get the free stuff.
Oh, we got a lot of free stuff. Yeah,
tons of free stuff.
Well, I'm working on something we never did before. I'm doing a full video channel, be an hour or something like that, of behind-the-scenes stuff, of full channeling. And so if people don't want to get a DVD or they don't want, maybe they can't get out of the house, or maybe I'm not near them, they can watch what we do. So I'd like to do that.
That's very cool.
Yep.
Well, listen. What do you say we get into this book? This book has been what, three years in the making?
Oh yeah, if not more.
Well, I would imagine the channel started to come way longer ago than 3 years ago.
They did, and now we know why, because the subject matter is complex,
mm-hmm.
and it is it was my task. And by the way, there was a time when I said no to this book. There's that time when I said no to a lot of things. That's just me being stubborn. I'm just like every man. Just like I tell you, I've been accused of a lot of things, and most people are right. I am a stubborn guy. I'm a stubborn guy, and I learn slowly. And Spirit knows this. And so sometimes I have to be beat up a little bit in order to do things that I not normally would do. The reason this book was not on my high agenda list is because it just was too doggone controversial and complex.
Sure.
And I thought, how can I even begin to teach this when I don't know anything about, for instance, the science of it? I don't know anything about numerology. I don't know. There's a lot of things I didn't. And Kryon said, "You got 3 years." So this is it. It was the year of the 3, 2010. But we put this out, and there's a whole lot of 3s involved. It's Kryon Book 12, which is a 3 in numerology. And it's also about 12 layers of DNA. There's really 3 3s there in a row. And now we start getting into some of the esoteric stuff about the energy of numbers. And you get 3 3s in a row, you add them up, you get a 9. 9 is completion. This is the completion of not only this project, but the completion of something that has been in the works for a long time to present. I didn't expect the result. I've done books now. This is the 12th, 15 books I've done. So I'm used to the process. I know about publishing. I know what to expect. I know how many to print in my niche, for this. I know it would probably go around the world in 24 languages, as they all do. That's good, but I knew how many, because I self-published, that we would print in English. And I was shocked because we were literally in the second printing. We were out of them in a month. So we exhausted all of them, and we're in the second printing within 1 month. We're looking at a third one coming up in another 60 days. So this has been the fastest-selling book that Kryon has ever done, including the Indigo Children. It's even faster than that. So
well,
this
that's
is
really,
yeah.
I mean, that's really incredible because I've told you before, I really like the way this book is written because there's several Kryon channels. I think there's 4 channels in the book, but the book is Lee writing. And
it is me writing, and it's also real-time Kryon writing. That is to say, only four things were transcribed, and everything else has been live on the page. That's a little different from the way we've done it in the past. So, and the whole philosophy of this book is, and what we did was different. And
well, and of course, you know that I like your writing style.
Thank you.
There's kind of like this little twist or this little edge to it that I just really. I really kind of like.
There's a little edge to me, and the edge comes in the fact that I am still to this day. I don't resonate with everything that everybody tells me. I am skeptical of just about everything that comes because there's so much there. So I've learned to use my discernment engine, and that's what I'm teaching now because we all have one.
Sure.
And you can look at it, and I'm also disappointed, and the edge comes to. With how people jump to amazing conclusions to put the doom twist on just about everything they can.
Yep.
And so let's talk about current events before we talk about the book. You got 2 million dead fish in Maryland.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you got birds falling out of the sky.
Right.
in 2 parts of the country. One's Alaska and the other one I forgot where it was, Arkansas, I think. Mm-hmm. And so we want to, right away, before any science is involved, before they can do autopsies, before any of the biologists can get down to the shore, I'm reading on the net, we got space creatures who are, their depth ray missed and got the birds. and, and the fish was, that's a whole other deal. And they're poisoning the ocean. This is the government's poisoning the ocean so that we cannot fish anymore, so they'll have more control of this because we'll be starving. Here we go. And I'm so upset with the fact that people don't, they want to go there. They just, it's something about the human nature that just wants to have these stories. And I don't know if that makes you feel better when you go to bed. It sure doesn't make me feel better.
Not at all.
You know, and now we know what they are. If anybody's interested even a little in the science, they know. Do you know one of the interesting things that I won't, I know we're here to talk about the book, but one of the things, did you hear about the salmon in Alaska? There are millions of them. They have come back. We have been in a dearth for a decade or so where there fewer and fewer of them, and they had to control the fishing and the number of people caught, including even the tribes there, and there was a big deal, so everybody was on a quota because there weren't enough. Suddenly, there's too many. They're jumping in the boat. There's millions of them. So suddenly the fish have come back. By the way, that breaks the paradigm of the doom and gloomers, especially the ones who say, hey, we're overfishing the oceans and everything. Nature does things we don't expect, and it does recover. No matter what we do to it, it seems to recover. We have the same thing happen in Maryland. The fish is called a spot fish. And we have unusual weather. It's way too cold. There were way too many fish, just like the salmon. And all of those fish were all what they call juvenile fish. They were all, babies. Mm-hmm. And they suffered from the cold, and they died. And this is not the first time this has happened. So this is not unique. The birds they analyzed, they said they were beat to death.
They were beaten to death?
They were beaten to death. That's right, up in the sky. Now that's, anybody who's in weather knows this comes from hail.
Okay.
This means that they were up there, and hailstorms just got them, and updrafts, and they were pummeled to death, and they landed on the ground. So here we are with weather anomalies and a lot of the stuff that we're now teaching, and Kryon even talked about 22 years ago now, is happening on this planet has to do with weather-related, the change of the issues. They're going to magnetics, everything, even the beaching of the whales turned out to be a magnetic anomaly. Mm-hmm. And so, and this is, it's as much as we don't want to lose those fish and the birds and everything else, it's not the end of the world. So I said it, now I've had my say.
Well, there's something you said a few minutes ago. I just want to make a comment on it, regarding this particular book, which, by the way, the title is Kryon Book 12, The 12 Layers of DNA, an Esoteric Study of the Mastery Within, which, absolutely, as soon as we start talking about mastery within, you got me hooked. But anyway, and, with your reluctance to write the book because, there's the science in there and all of that, and, I remember you telling me the story a long time ago about your reluctance to do this work to begin with, and just thinking back to the information that's in Kryon Book 1 and Book 2 and Book 3, you didn't know that stuff either, did you?
No, it's like anything else. After 22 years, you find you've learned a lot of things. Mm-hmm. One of the things I can say I learned, and I was totally, completely skeptical, I believe in astrology. Mm-hmm. I believe in past lives. I believe in things that just literally a decade ago, this is in the half-life of my work with Kryon, the half-life of it, I still wasn't totally and completely on board because I did not have what I would call a 100% gut feeling that it was correct. Mm-hmm. And you know what made the difference? Nobody can ever prove any of these. You realize that none of this is provable in the 3D sense. You're not going to put this stuff in a test tube and find the angel. It's just not going to happen. When you add nitric acid, you're not going to get it. So you're going to have trouble with it. So what else have we got? And the answer is you have something inside. The more you start looking, and the more open you get, outside of the 3D box, outside of anything you've been told, you start actually looking around, start asking that which I suppose people would call God, are you there? Is this correct? Whatever. Then you start getting these, what I would call feedback. And psychologists know what that is. This is this thing that feeds you back the truth that you know is real. When you take a look at humanity, we've got 80% of the human race. That's, we've got almost 7 billion people. We've got 80% of them believe in the afterlife. Mm-hmm. 80% of them are in an organized religion of some kind. I don't know if most people knew that. That's a lot of people that have found whatever that is, the God inside, or their search for the Creator has led them to a belief system. So it's intuitive, absolutely intuitive, that the first thing we do out of the blocks is look for who made us. Mm-hmm. So there is, in my opinion, that's an indictment of there's something bigger, guys, and we all know it. So I don't think we're out of line saying we have looked and we have found, we believe that we have a God which is very, very big, and it is in us. besides being out of us, it's within us as well. So we are part of it. And if you take a look at the others who believe this, the oldest religions on the planet started out that way. So you have Buddhism, you have Hinduism, and I'm not a Buddhist or a Hindu, but if you take a look at what they teach, there it is. The Creator's inside. You have ascension status. You have, everything you do for yourself, you can do it. All the healing is there. Past lives are there. So really, what this new age is doing is returning to the most ancient of knowledge and starting then to rediscover it.
So it's starting to rediscover the old age.
Yep, that's right.
That's really interesting to say that. I know it was a number of years ago when there were several people around me, and they were saying, the new energy, you did all your work in the old energy, so now you have to do it all over again in the new energy because doing it in the old energy was wrong. And my thought was, okay, so what's new and what's old? It's like what you're calling the new energy was done 2,000 years ago.
Well, we can add to that some of the things that now are starting to become a little more obvious. We've got the handshakes all over the world here on the science and the spirituality. And one of the guys who puts this together so well, again, is Greg Braden. And Greg is a scientist. I mean, he's a scientist first and last. That's what he is. So he would be just as comfortable on PBS and any mainstream program that you could look at as anything else. He's not a channeler. He's not one who's going to tell you about past lives. He's a scientist. And what he's discovered is spiritual things. And he is showing in a scientific way that there's perhaps a number of decision points we have made. You have heard the expression, history tends to repeat itself?
Yes.
It does. And he has formulas for it. It's called time fractals. Now physicists are starting to tell us some of the things that Kryon has told us all along that are part of what we would call quantum physics paradigms. And these are things that are out of 3D and are very, very hard for you to understand, but how what happens in the future affects the past. And this is now mainstream science. A guy 3 or 4 weeks ago in December got an award for it at the White House. This is where we're going, folks. And it's just hard to understand. Greg Braden's been on this for a long time. And why I'm telling you this is because the idea of time fractals, and he's got a book called Fractal Time, is that we may have had decision points where we literally shut everything down and started over. Maybe we didn't have a war, but maybe we had different points of decision where we could move forward or stop and start again. And I think we stopped and started again a couple of times because we're really, if you take a look at numbers of things, and I get into this in my book just a little bit, and that is, for instance, the more we go back and study the ancients, the more we realized how much they knew. They knew about the galaxy. They knew about the solar system. They knew about the Earth, the Sun, the orbiting planets. They're studying them. They're looking at it. These are the ancients. Now we go to the 1400s, and we're told that the sailors were afraid to get in the ships because they were going to sail off the edge of the Earth. They didn't even know it was round. So it's like we forgot everything that ever was. Galileo was put under house arrest because he said the Earth goes around the sun, because he didn't agree with the Pope, So here we are looking at, like, what happened? We forgot everything. And I tell people, it's obviously the science was almost a reboot, if you want to call it. What if the spirituality was too? What if we had to start rediscovering everything? And now we're at this place, finally, where the door is opening, and we're saying, you know what? This feels familiar. What if I've been through this before? And this is now where I'm starting to realize, and now for the last 10 years, that past life experiences are real. And, we get laughed at for this, and yet the other way around is more laughable. You've got a situation in almost all mainstream religions. I'm not a religion basher. I'm just telling you what the doctrines say, that we only get one time around. We're born with nothing. We came from nowhere with absolutely nothing. By the way, according to most religions, we're born dirty. And then suddenly, when we die, we're eternal. And so here you go, something has come from nothing, is born on the planet dirty, and it goes to an eternal situation, whether it's, whether it goes up or down or bad or good. But how can you have a soul that came from nothing and suddenly goes forever? And I will tell you, that is a 3D bias. and I teach this in my seminars, and nobody's really looking at it, where nothing goes in both directions. Everything goes in one direction only, forward. That is not the way physics works. That's the way our minds work. So a more realistic approach is that everything is in a circle, including time, and that's what physicists are starting to say. And so here we are with a situation that maybe life is the same. It goes in a circle. Maybe we've come and gone and come and gone. That makes a whole lot more sense spiritually than being born from nothing and going forever. These are just little things that I'm pointing out. And this brings us to the issue of DNA.
Yeah.
And I got to do the science first, Joe. If you have some things you have to do.
Yeah,
for the show.
I was actually going to take a break right now.
Oh, yes.
For just a minute, and actually there's been somebody hanging on the switchboard that has a question or a comment, and I want to get to that first.
Please. Yeah.
And then we can jump right into the DNA.
Good.
After 45 minutes of conversation, we can. But
we do that, don't we?
But it's always kind of fun. Anyway, folks, I invite you all to come back to www.awakeningzone.com often and check out all of the incredible shows that we're currently offering. And what I mean is top-of-the-line shows with top-of-the-line guests offering programs that fit under the umbrella of personal growth and development, metaphysics, spirituality, human empowerment, and empowered awakening. Again, I'm really excited and honored to announce that my guest tonight, Lee Carroll, will be periodically hosting a show with us right here on the Awakening Zone, the International Radio Network for Empowered Awakening. His show is called New Beginnings, and his first show will be Wednesday, March 30th, the fifth Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific, and 1 a.m. Thursday morning at GMT. And as I mentioned before, I'm just going to mention a few of the hosts. I don't want to forget anybody, but just a few of the hosts coming up. Dr. Meg Blackburn-Losey will be doing a weekly show with us. Pepper Lewis doing a monthly show. Kahu Fred Sterling will be doing a periodic show with us. And, of course, my partners in Empowered Awakening, Jeff and Linda Hoppe, will be doing a monthly show. So please do go to www.awakeningzone.com for all the hosts, all the shows, and all the details. And coming up on the Awakening Zone as we roll out our regular programming with this Monday, January 10th, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, the D-Spot with your host, dream specialist Kelly Sullivan Walden. And her show, she'll be exploring the nexus of our nighttime dreams, daytime desires, and our highest destiny. Kelly's guest Monday will be author of Dreaming Down Heaven, Ginny Gentry. And also on Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Single Again Now What, with your hosts, Joni Winberg and Mike Mastrossi. This is support and empowerment for all single parents. Joni and Mike welcome psychotherapist, relationship expert, and coach Rachel Mohiban. And the question is, if you're divorced or widowed or any single parent, tune in to Joni and Mike for incredible empowerment tips and take it from these two. They've been there, they've done that, and they are available to assist you. Once again, I invite you to return frequently for all of our wonderful shows on the Awakening Zone, www.awakeningzone.com. Next week, next Thursday, January 13th, 7 p.m. Central, right here on the Clear Vibration, my special guest will be Channeler of Gaia, Pepper Lewis. And, of course, Pepper will be channeling Gaia live on the air, so come back and see us. And in coming weeks, I have the author of a book called Pope Annalisa, Peter Canova, author of Dreaming Down Heaven, Ginny Gentry, author and facilitator Jim Self with Mastering Alchemy, Jeff and Linda Hoppe with the Damas St. Germain, Fred Sterling and Master Carroll, and Karen Cressman will be back with a live interpretation of the Wise Ones. Go to my website, www.healingtheuniverse.com, to find out about my private sessions and the telewebcast workshops and other things that I have coming up. And before we move on, I definitely want to say thank you to the entire staff at the Crimson Circle for their enthusiasm and wonderful work that they have been doing and are continuing to do to put into the creation of this network. Without them, we could not create this network. And so I say thank you to everyone at the Crimson Circle, everyone on the staff. I really appreciate everything that you've all been doing in behalf of this network. So anyway, I'm finished, Lee.
No, we got somebody waiting.
And we have somebody waiting, so I think I'm going to bring that person on right now.
Yeah.
If I can get the switchboard to work. You know, this technology is a wonderful thing when it works.
You want me to host? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but, you know, I'll be on the other side of it for you. Don't worry about it.
That's true. Okay, good.
Okay. Anyway, area code 636240. You are on the Clear Vibration.
Well, I'd like to say hello to Lee and hello to Joe. It's been a few months since I've heard you folks, and it's good to hear your voices again.
Who is this?
Lee,
Is this Jerry?
Yes, this is Jerry. How are you?
Hi, Jerry.
Cook, how are you?
Lee, doing great, thanks. Started following Lee 1995, and I'm not a group. If I don't agree with what he says, I listen to my own intuition, my own inner being, and always have been a firm believer in we create our own reality. And it's interesting to see people see how they react to that whenever you do mention such a thing. But anyhow, I just tuned in tonight because it's always good to listen to the two of you, and I'm just going to spend the rest of my evening listening to you. So thanks again for taking my call.
Thank you, Jerry. I love it, what you said, because we could do a whole program on this, and I'm sure Joe has, creating your own reality. It's a paradigm that people look at you cross-eyed with, because this is a society where we're all victims of something. You know, we're victims of our parents, we're victims of the government, we're victims of life, and so we don't seem to have much choice, and we just kind of are beat up and walk around. You know, and this is, I can't believe how many people have that coming out of the blocks. You know, this is just the way we are. And you know, that's not even what our Constitution says. I mean, we're trying to empower people left and right, and then we get to what you just said. We create a reality. It's outside of the paradigm of normal thinking. How can a regular person, you know, create something around them because it's out of your control? And this is where, you know, you get into it, and we teach what synchronicity is, and we teach what energy is, and we start to realize how it works, and it does. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Jerry, good to hear your voice. Take care.
Good to hear yours, Joe. See you.
Thank you. Hey, Lee, let's grab one more before we go on.
Okay.
Area code 417859. You are on the Clear Vibration.
Hi.
Hi, who's this?
I know she's there. Do you hear us?
I hear you.
I heard her for a second.
Area code 417859. You are on the Clear Vibration. Okay.
Have her call. She can call back. I know she wants to talk.
Okay, terrific. Oh, wait a minute. I thought I heard something.
Me too.
Area code 417. Are you there?
Hi.
No. Oh, 417? That's my area code.
That's you.
Meet Joe.
What?
Pat Childers. Patty
Hey,
Gordon.
Pat, how are you?
Childers.
Hi, Pat.
How you doing? Hi, Lee. How you doing?
I'm doing
really
great.
having a great time listening to you two.
Thank
and it
you.
just feels like I'm right in the room with you, and I'm loving it. So
You
I just
are in
wanted
the
to
room
say
with us.
that. Well, I know, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm really happy. I'm seeing you two too. You know, I mean, I can do
course.
that.
I know
Well,
you're very
listen,
strange.
Pat, as long as you're in the same room with us, would you go out to the kitchen and bring us a six-pack?
Oh, now you're not done with the show yet, so we'll have
I want
to
to
wait.
get a sandwich, please. Oh, Joe, do you realize what we just did?
What's that?
We are so chauvinistic. Not really, but
I know.
You know,
I
we
knew
didn't
it.
ask
But,
Jerry to go get us anything.
well, he didn't say he was in the room with us.
Oh, that's right. Okay, you're okay now.
Oh, yeah, you give yourself forgiveness now, boys.
We're okay now. We're all right now.
But then I've known Pat longer than I've known Jerry, so
So you can do
I've
that.
known
that's
Pat
true.
since high school.
Yeah.
Did you know that,
Any-
Lee?
No, ma'am.
That
I
we
did
went
not
to high
know
school
that.
together?
I think that's just scary. Really scary.
It is scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Pat, what can we do for you this evening?
Well, I just wanted to say hi to you guys. I really did, and I'm really glad that I got on the call and heard all about all the things that are going on with your radio show. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about you and your new book.
Thank you.
Who's published it? Lee?
It's being, thank you. We have published all of our own except for 5 of them were with Hay House. It's the first time we've gone with the Energy Extension. The Energy Extension is Platinum Publishers, which is Peggy Phoenix DeBro of EMF Balancing Technique. So her organization is publishing it, and the reason I let them do that, and wanted them to, is because there are color illustrations in this book that have been channeled by her son-in-law, Ilan DeBro, Vayner. So, Cohen. And so he was my Israeli host, and he's also my Hebrew coach. He's a lot of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so that's their connection, and so they're the publishers. Did a good job, too.
Okay.
Terrific. All right. Pat, thanks a lot for calling in. We really need to move on because we need to talk about this book.
I know. Okay, boys. Bye-bye.
Pat, good to hear you. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
Okay, we got a couple more people on the switchboard, but we're going to talk about this book first.
All right.
Unless you have an extra hour or two, Lee.
We should get into it a little bit.
I like that. It's like, let's do it. No, let's not.
I know. And let me rehash something we did on Blog Talk, because we got a lot of new listeners here.
Yeah.
And just starting at the top, doing the science of DNA, and I'm not going to talk about chemicals or anything. So don't worry, you can stay tuned. I want to tell you what the science has discovered, which absolutely handshakes and agrees with the potentials of what the channeling is saying. And that is this: we have now, after all these years, and the technology we have, we've identified DNA as best we can. We did the Human Genome Project, which many people have heard of, which is the idea of mapping the DNA genome. And that was no trivial thing. It took government 10 years, took another guy about 3. He did it better. And this was the identification of 3 billion chemicals. So first of all, let's get an appreciation of DNA. Here is something most people don't even know or think about. You've got about 100 trillion pieces of the double helix DNA in your body. They're all identical. This is from your toe to your head. They are not systemically involved in doing things for certain organs, or they get instructions for that, but they are identical. So take DNA from your toe, it's going to be the same as DNA from your head. And somehow all of this 100 trillion of these things talk to each other. Nobody knows how that happens either. And they're so small you have to look at each one with an electron microscope, and yet every single double helix has 3 billion chemicals in it. Can you imagine how small this stuff is?
Wow.
So here we are with the study of what are the chemicals. And so science has wanted to look at this for so long, because if we could figure out what the chemistry is in DNA, we'd know all about the genes. It's about 38,000 or 36,000 genes. They keep changing the number in our body to make us who we are. And so genealogy is the study of the gene-producing parts of the body would give us perhaps an idea how to control disease and how to see if people are predisposed to certain kinds of things so that we can get at it fast and keep them from having them. And so, you've got a lot of things we want to know, science and health and all. We'd love to know these things, and it's for all the right reasons. And a lot of people are saying for all the wrong reasons, too, but they always do. So here we are looking at this stuff, and they made an astounding discovery. They identified every chemical. We now have the blueprint. So I tell people it's like finding a book on the beach, and you open the book, and you take it, and you want to know what's in it. It's got 3 billion words, and you finally finish dusting the sand off, and you can see all the words, but you don't know the language.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they want to know the language. And so they start looking for what would be code, because chemistry is code that would make the genes. And chemical codes are known to us. I mean, we've seen enough of them already. And sure enough, they found a lot of them. In fact, they found enough that would make the 36,000 genes in the body. And these codes were linear. They're almost like computer codes. They had start and stop markers for every one of them, and you can read them. And this is what science was looking for. But here was the discovery, and I'll get to it now, is that all the genes in the human body, 36,000 or more genes in the human body, were made by less than 5% of the 3 billion parts of DNA. Less than 5. So like 3.5% of DNA did anything. And the rest of it had no codes at all. In fact, it didn't even have any symmetry. They put the Cray computers back then, the code-breaking computers on these chemistries to find out is there any kind of coding, is there any kind of symmetry, is there any kind of patterning, anything? And the answer was no. So right away, you stop the program and you start looking at what quantum physics knows, and that is in a quantum state, things look like chaos. There is no linearity recognizable in a quantum state, because a quantum state, there is no time, there is no place. It is a state where things behave oddly and strangely, the super small particles of atomic structure like DNA. And so now you're looking at something, wow, what if that most of the molecule, which they call DNA, most of it was quantum? Now here's what science has done. Instead of saying that, they've said, we can't figure out what over 90% of DNA does, therefore it's junk. Now, they don't really believe that because they're smart. They just called it that because they don't know what it is. And now they're starting to look at it a little more closely. There's evidence now. They're starting to see that it does affect things. In fact, if you remove it, nothing works. And so when you put it back, everything works. So it has to have information. And that's where you have guys like Bruce Lipton. Dr. Bruce, he's a medical school professor. And this guy, you want to listen to this guy. He came right out of the mainstream teaching doctors. And he has revelations based upon his science and his discoveries. And he wrote a book called Biology of Belief. And he says, you know, what most DNA is, it's information. And you can write it and rewrite it. And here we are with the basic premises of controlling your own life, controlling your own health, your own destiny, through consciousness, talking to DNA. So that's the opening soiree in the book. Science is agreeing that there is 90% of it, they don't know what it does. So enter the esoteric and what Kryon has channeled. What is in it? And that is what the book is about. And so now I'm going to turn the page and tell you a little bit about what it isn't, because this is hard to describe. This is why I invite people to take the book and read it slowly, because this is why I didn't want to do this, because it seemed too hard to me, that the concepts were too hard. Anytime you get out of 3 dimensions and you're talking about a quantum concept, you lose them. You lose them, because that's not the way we grew up. And that's not what's going to happen when you hang up the phone either. I mean, you're going to go back to a 3D lifestyle. So here we are looking at something, 12 layers of DNA, and everybody's going to say, well, you go in the DNA and there's 12 things in there. There are not. They are quantum energies, and so there's no start and stop marks of these layers any more than there are in the colors of rainbow. And if somebody wanted to look at the rainbow and say, you know, I love that rainbow, I especially like the purple, and so I'm going to take the purple out, you can't do it. Nor can you ask physics to just give you the purple. They're going to give you the whole rainbow. And you can sit there and like the purple, but that's all you can do. DNA is the same. You've got 12 layers, and they're energy, and they're interactive, and they go, and they work together. And the only reason that Kryon pulled 12 of them out was to show you instructionally how they work. But when you put it back together, you don't have 12 of anything. Again, I use this metaphor, I overuse it. It's a soup. When you sit down and you're going to have your tomato soup, you can't look at it and isolate the tomato, the salt, the water. It doesn't look, you just have the soup, and you can do anything you want to. You're not going to get that out of it because it's already blended and it's a soup. However, somebody can give you the recipe, and you'll have the parts, won't you?
Sure.
So you got the parts, and then you got the soup. It's the same with DNA. We're looking at soup doing stuff, but we got to look at the book to pull it apart and teach it. So. But it gets us in trouble, because now we have people activating DNA, which, by the way, is wonderful. I really support anybody who's around activating DNA. But any teacher who really understands what they're doing, and most of them do, understands that they're really supplying energy of a specific kind to DNA, and DNA then does what it does. There's no such thing as activating layer 4. You just any more than you can go to the soup and pick out the salt. You can't do it.
And I want to tell you that I was never so glad to read that in your book, because there really are so many people out there that like, oh, I just spent 6 days and I got my DNA activated, and they wear it like this badge.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Like,
well, maybe I have, but I'll tell you. Here's the kicker, and here's what I want to tell you, that the other thing that is super, super hard for me to even open my mouth and say on this show is that DNA is intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you. It's not your consciousness. It is intelligent. It knows. Mm-hmm. All of the DNA works together in a field. That field, according to Kryon, is 8 meters out, 26 feet, surrounds you. It has a field. Now I'll tell you, now science is starting to measure the field. And it's guys like Vladimir Poponin who did the phantom DNA experiments. This is quantum biology. It has nothing to do with New Age. Who has measured a field around DNA that has information in it. And I'll tell you, he did this. I'm not going to get into it because we don't have time. But this was a light experiment where he actually was able to pattern the actual particles of light using DNA. So this is measurable. Now we have an interdimensional or multidimensional field around DNA. It's smart. So and I'm so glad because now your consciousness can interact with your body's smarts. And that is how it works. So when you're activating your DNA, whatever that means to you, you're talking to a smart body system. You know who knows? Anybody who deals with kinesiology knows about the smart body system. There's anybody who knows about body talk knows about a smart system. The body knows things that you don't, and your consciousness will never know. It knows if it has cancer in it, and you don't. You know, how does that? What do you think of that? Have you ever thought about that? How much control do you have, really, of your body when you got all this stuff going on, and you don't know it, and the body does? Well, there's a connection between your consciousness and that smart body, and it's called DNA. And this is what we're developing. And then Kryon starts to say, here's what's in it, and it'll blow you away. Because the first thing he talks about, he doesn't just talk about the angel inside. He talks about the creator inside, and he talks about the Akashic record, every single lifetime you ever lived, etched into your DNA. That is so awesome. And it means that it never goes away. You know, we look at past lives in linear fashion. Those of you who believe in past lives, great. Those of you who don't, you can sleep for a moment. And the truth is that it doesn't go away. We think of it linearly. You go to a past life reader and they say, well, it's, 103 years ago you were this and that. And you go, God, do I have to pay you more for that? It's a long time ago. It's only 30 years ago. It'll cost me less for the reading. So already we have a bias that the longer it was in history ago, the harder it is going to get to. And it isn't. It's all there in one soup. You're looking at it. It's only the 3D that puts it in a line, that calls it linear and assigns years to it. It is there. So the warrior that you were there, the Lemurian that you were there, it's all there. And it's ready. It's information, and it's sitting there. What if you could access it?
You can.
What would you do? And people say, well, then I'd know a lot. No, I'm not talking about accessing what you did. I'm talking about accessing who you were. Mm-hmm. What if you could go get things that you've already earned because you've lived through them? What if it was a system, this past life system is that every time you live through something, you learn something, and it goes inside you, ready to be pulled out if you know how. And that's what we're teaching, how to do it.
And of course, almost 5 years ago, you were here in St. Louis, and that's what you were talking about, only in different words.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay, you were talking about reaching into other dimensions and bringing things forward into this consciousness that you could use right here, right now, today. And I think that's the same thing you're talking about.
It is. Only now we have it. We have it all together, and we're making it personal. We're mm-hmm. putting it inside us, and that I think what this whole program is about is what is it possible? Is it possible that we've got our own little universe inside us that's us, and includes not only the sacredness, not only that which we call God, but also all of the energy of our past lives, and that's just only a part of it. There's angelic energy. There's all manner of things that Kryon goes into, and your head starts spinning with it because it is so heady, it's so esoteric, and you've got to think about, could such a thing be? And then, of course, there's always the people who say, well, I don't feel any of that. I just feel like I'm a victim, and I'm walking around, and I don't have a very good life, and I'm not very healthy, and all these things. And that's the person I want to look in their eyes and say, well, why don't you listen for a minute? Because wouldn't you like to change that? What if you could?
Yeah, give this a shot.
Yeah, give it a shot and find out. This is when people start to, and here we are, awaken. And we use the word, maybe we overuse it, but they're awakening to a possibility that is different than they were told. I want to tell you a little story, and you interrupt me anytime you have to do something.
No.
Like, business or whatever. I go all over the world, and the people who are your hosts, they do the same thing. We're talking about Kahu and Pepper and of course my friends and Jeff, and they're in all kinds of countries all the time. So we all see a lot, and we write a book, except that it probably would be inappropriate. If you talk about different cultures and what they're like, it's something you're not supposed to do because it's inappropriate behavior then to categorize people into certain things. Well, you can't help it. You see it,
Sure.
And you see, and I've been asked the questions: where is the place where this information is most accepted? In other words, where is it that people would learn fastest? And you won't believe it. And the answer was in Russia.
Wow.
And when you realize why, then there's an aha. The reason is because they've had 50 years of no religion, no God, no boxes allowed. And so they're absolutely wide open for the possibility, so they don't have to unlearn anything. They don't have a bias that they have to fight with. If you're told from birth that something happened and you ought to do it this way, it's tough to undo that. Because that's what Mom did. That's what she gave you. And Mom and Dad are, precious in your eyes. So they're supposed to be. So this is what they gave you. And you don't want to throw that away. We don't have to throw it away, but you have to look at possibilities. Well, the Russians they're so ready. Because intuitively, they know there's a God. And they're ready to find out all about where it might be. And when we start saying, take a look inside, they are online, ready to go. They're the fastest learners we got. The opposite would be South America. It doesn't matter what the government is. It doesn't matter what the president is. The Catholic Church is more powerful than all of them. And it is not right or wrong. It just is what it is, folks. And I'm not making it. I'm not making a statement that anybody has to then, quote me and say, Mr. Carroll said this and that, and it's bad. No, it just is. Go there and see. And so you have that to deal with, and that is to say that if somebody wishes to reconsider what they were taught, then they have to go through a relearning process, and it's not easy. And I'm one of them. I came out of Protestant church in my life, and I spent most of my youth in church. And so I'm one of these guys that had to unlearn what I thought was very precious to me. And I want to say something, and I hope somebody's listening that should hear this, and that is to say the love of God never changed. I didn't get out of one box and get into another. God just got bigger for me. That's what happened to me. So I didn't throw my church away. I still go back there. I still love to sit there, and I love the hymns. I love the love. I love all the things that I came to know. I saw healing in my church for the first time. What if it's all related? So it doesn't make anybody wrong what we're saying. We have now this information about DNA that is so big, and what can you do with it? Well, and you get into this. Well, you can study it and start to realize the immensity of what might be there and what you can do with it. And that's only the beginning. I'm sure there'll be follow-up books, and many people are going to write them. And I encourage them to, about the best way to start activating your DNA. Boy, you can do it with so many different ways. And as long as you understand you're not grabbing one color of the rainbow and making it brighter. You're talking to the whole rainbow, and it's talking back, I'll pause for a moment and breathe.
Okay. Do you want to continue on a thread, or do you want to go on to something else? Because I got one more caller on here.
Let's do another caller now.
Let's do another caller. Okay. Great. Area code 407894. You are on the Clear Vibration.
Hello.
Hi. Who's this?
Hello.
This is Hudson in Orlando.
Hi, Hudson in Orlando.
Hey guys.
It's all warm down there, isn't it? Hudson?
No, it's cold tonight. Well, 43.
You're supposed to tell me it's beautiful all the time.
Well, it's always beautiful. Get your butt back down here.
Yeah, been there many times. I go to Florida at least twice a year for obvious reasons, because it's Florida.
Well, to give you a plug, I had the pleasure of going to one of your seminars a couple of years ago. I've tried a couple of times since, and I wasn't able to, but they're wonderful.
Thank you.
And I also want to say, Personally, I think the Kryon material probably has about the highest integrity of anything I've come across, and I've been studying for years. And this is good stuff. Everybody listening, go to his website. He's got years' worth of material that will keep you busy and expanding your mind.
I'll pay you in the morning. That's right.
The thing about it is you don't even have to send a check anymore. You can just do PayPal.
I'm going to sign up after we hang out.
Yeah, great, Joe. Thanks.
Well, and also, if the material is so good, and you were speaking about the relative cost of your seminars and that sort of thing, and it is amazing. I mean, to hear that, you do it for so cheaply, and with the book publishing and all that, it's just such a blessing. It really is.
Thank you.
I did have kind of a question.
Yeah,
and I just want to put it out to both of you. It was just something that landed in my lap today, and this was on the heels of listening to actually your Dallas material last night, and it was talking about the relationship of the human being and the earth and the give and the take, and how it's a much deeper, tighter, incredible bond than most of us imagine. Something fell in my lap this morning that was some material from another source, and it was good material, and it spoke of something that jolted me and made me, it just made me pay attention. And I'm not necessarily saying the actual information is correct or accurate, but it was still very interesting. And this was about the Gulf oil spill, and basically saying that the entire Gulf is dead, or it's on its way to being dead. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but there was a lot more complex information discussed about it. But I just don't get a feeling that that's necessarily the case.
But let's talk about it for a moment. Were they talking about esoterically, spiritually, or were they talking about scientifically, or did you get that?
Well, the source it was sort of a channeled source.
Okay, that tells me a lot. Okay, and the reason, and we get this all the time. In fact, one of my seminars is on this. Spirit speaks often in metaphors, and so it uses words. This is one of the reasons that when I channel, I rechannel. These things that are on the audio page that get rechanneled, you take a look at, some of the words get changed because after the fact we realize what they mean. And so spirit is in a quantum state, doesn't even have any time or anything, and gives us information. So let's look at that. Let's say the Gulf is dead. I'll tell you what that could mean. It could mean spirit looking into the future saying, you're not going to need oil anymore. And that's something so simple, because it's dead to us in that we don't need the oil anymore. So it is of no use. The oil rigs will go away. And this is, I think, where we're going eventually. And it may take 2 generations. It may take 3. And this would then be an accurate prediction based upon looking at it that way. I don't believe it is dead in the 3D sense any more than you do.
I guess I left a piece out of where I was going with that. But I do know she was referring to it being physically dead because she was describing the oil killing the life and moving faster than the animal's ability to outrun it and that sort of thing.
You know what? I want to tell you this. This is the way it looks. It just absolutely looks this way. I'm going to make a prediction. You're going to see a full, as Kryon even said this, it's not me, a full recovery far faster than anybody thought there could be, because this is what's going on. That nobody is looking at this in a way that is outside of the paradigm of what used to happen. Everybody's looking at history and making predictions based upon what used to be instead of what we now know can be. Mm-hmm. The new energy is going to create a whole new way of things. That's why we're having the salmon return, a lot of things that the biologists said were impossible. So here, take a look. We'll see who's right. I tell you, it's going to respond better than it ever has. Now, there are certain things that won't. And we're going to discover, and this is probably where she's right, that we have killed certain things there that is going to affect other things. This is, but it's not going to affect them forever. Maybe a generation. It's a long time for us, not for spirit.
And the other thing, Hudson, is while that was all happening, and it's still happening right now. At the human 3D level, I was feeling it like everybody else was. It's like, wow, this is like devastating, and the people down there and losing their jobs and their livelihoods and all of that sort of thing. But I never felt like it was something that we couldn't bounce back from, and it might come back and look different, And then of course, I had the opportunity to talk to Pepper Lewis about it, who channels Gaia,
right.
And I'll tell you what, next Thursday night, come join us again, because Pepper's going to be channeling Gaia, and you will have the opportunity to ask that question directly to Gaia and just see what Gaia has to say.
That's a great answer, too, because I have sat backstage listening to Pepper when she's been on my stage the few times that the years that I've had her there, and I remember one time when I was so happy to hear something that Kryon had taught. We don't usually listen to one another because we're busy doing other things, and the question was asked of Gaia, what about global warming? What are we doing to the Earth? And Gaia says, you haven't done anything to us. It wouldn't have been there anyway, And so that just flies in the face of the 3D science we're being given.
Sure. So I do invite you to come back next Thursday and talk to Gaia.
No, I will, definitely. And one more little thing. What about the human responsibility in all of this?
It is it's so present, and thank you for saying that, because one of the other things Kryon said was in a direct Q&A session in Sedona last year, you were asked about it because it was going on then. He said, you're going to find out eventually that there was no integrity at all there. In other words, this was completely and totally avoidable. It was done because of greed and cutting corners. And it was this week, if not yesterday or today, that the study is coming out now, that the committee, and that's exactly what they're saying. They're saying it's going to happen again unless we change some rules. And so here we are with that very thing. So what if this whole thing was to get us alerted on how not to have it happen again? It's too bad we have to learn that way, but you do. This is the way humans learn. Sure. And so then it becomes a situation that was horrible, but we can learn from it, and we will. That's what I believe.
I pray we will.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely.
Oh God, yes.
You know what? I feel really good about the fact that we will. I feel good about it.
Excellent.
There are those who will say we will never learn from these mistakes because human nature will continue to create the greed. Now, and I will say to anybody else, I would have agreed with that 10 years ago until we started changing our banking system and almost had a depression because we decided to clean it up. Mm-hmm. We haven't cleaned it up, but we went right to the basics and said, you're too greedy. Look what you've done to us, and look what you're doing. And they've been doing that all along. And so now they're starting to look at the way our financial system, this is the holy grail. You talk about big money, that's been untouchable in the United States for 200 years. And now we're tackling it. And I never thought I'd see anything like that. And so I'm saying that we're going to a population of the world that is going to demand that we do. And that's what's changing, in my opinion.
Hudson, thank you so much for calling in tonight. I really do appreciate it. And again, I do invite you to come back next Thursday and talk to Pepper and Gaia.
I will.
And of course, you can talk to me too.
Always my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Hope I see you in Orlando sometime.
I'm looking forward to that too. Thank you both.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Those are wonderful questions.
Absolutely. I'm really cool.
And we have, and then I like to point this out too, because there's a lot of channeling out there. There's a lot of people, and sometimes you hit something, it just doesn't feel right. It's a really good source, and you got to look at and say, what if it wasn't in 3D at all? Mm-hmm. What if it means something else? And you're looking at it from Spirit's standpoint. What could they be saying? If anybody really wants to see how Spirit talks, take a look at Revelation. That's just packed with metaphors. And you've got to figure them out. The quatrains of Nostradamus, channeled, supposedly, I think it worked. You got to figure them out. They're not straightforward. And so that really hasn't changed that much. It's a little more straightforward, but Spirit still gives information that is often metaphorically based. Mm-hmm.
Lee, we only have a few minutes left. there's something that I really wanted to ask you about. I didn't want to get into a conversation of the 12 layers or anything, but I do want to ask you a question about layer 6. Layer 6 is about the higher self. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Really, just an interesting little story. It's about the higher self and that layer being the connection to God, the universe, the all that is, that sort of thing. Some time ago, back when I had the time, I used to call into a meditation on Tuesday evenings. My friend Carla, who you've spoken to on the show before, owns the Center of Consciousness in Bluemont, Virginia, guides this meditation every Tuesday night. And so she's doing this meditation, and I mean, we're going deep and, all of that and everything. And it wasn't so much the meditation, but it was what happened afterwards. I talk all the time about Merlin and the magic of Merlin and the sorcerer's magic and practical magic and that sort of thing. So she calls me and she goes, "You're really going to think I'm weird. You're going to think I'm so bizarre." And I said, "Why is that?" Well, prior to the meditation, I had been talking about magic, about practical magic. She said, halfway through the meditation, she said, "I almost fell off my chair. It's like I was sitting there, and we just kind of taking a deep breath and everything, and I hear this voice, and the voice says, 'Carla.'" And she's thinking, "What?" She said, "Carla." She said, "Yeah, what?" I said, "This is Kryon." And she said she almost, in her pants. Said, This is Kryon.
Yeah.
Carla goes, "Yeah." "Tell Joe that this is where the magic is."
Very nice. Kryon gets around, And by the way, there's lots of Kryon channels on the planet now, and it's not a proprietary. People think that. What do you think about all these other people that stole your entity? And you got to go, whoa, wait a minute. You're the only person that can pray? God only listening to you?
Exactly. But I just, I said, "I don't think you're weird, Carla." I said, heck, I said, with as involved as you are with DNA, and if you'll recall to the last show, she's the one that was really deep into the DNA work, and basically what you told her validated the work that she was doing.
It's great work, too. The layer 6 is the prayer and communication layer, and so as we develop that higher self, and by the way, it's not higher above you, it's higher in vibration.
Uh-huh.
And because it's higher in vibration, you don't see it because you are not at its level unless you come up to it, and that is what we teach. So you start looking, you start raising your vibration by the very act of your desire and intent to find it. You find a little of it, and then you're hooked because you realize there's something there. There's something there that's bigger than I ever thought, and it's beautiful. And that is and they call it, and it's not a new age deal. It's prayer and communication.
Well, and for me, it's the magic.
Yeah, it is the magic.
It really
as we
is.
define it, magic
Exactly.
is that which is outside of the 3D paradigm of what's supposed to be possible.
Exactly.
And there's a whole lot of it.
Well, Lee, listen, there's one other thing I wanted to mention. You mentioned Sedona, and you have another one of those coming up in June. Is that correct?
I do, and it is. I'll tell you why it's going to be special. I'll just give this about 30 seconds or so.
Yep.
This particular, I want to give you the dates of it first so that you know. It's going to be June 10, 11, and 12. Our special guests this year, it's an annual Summer Light Conference, are going to be two people who we've been talking about. One is Jeff Hoppy, he'll be there with Linda, so it'll be Jeff and Linda Hoppy, and also Pepper Lewis. So they will be there. Pepper's going to channel at the Grand Canyon with us a few days before that. She'll be there. She may be even teaching a course there. That's yet to be seen. But she'll be there, and she'll have her table, and Jeff and I will be channeling together on the stage. So we're going to have a great time.
Well, and I talked with Jeff yesterday, and he said, make your plane reservation.
Yeah,
right. So I get to come, too.
It's going to be the first year. It's a long story, and I'll just tell you. We've been in the gymnasium for, it's our 5th year, I think, there. And it's because there's no place big enough for us in Sedona. So we've taken off Red Rock High's gym. Well, when they saw that happen, they said, hey, we ought to build a theater and attract all of these New Age people and all these conferences and stuff, and the city won't do it, so we will do it. So they did. They have a 700-seat theater, and we're going to inaugurate it. So we're going to be there first time.
That's incredible. And like I said, Jeff said, make your plane reservation, and I said, I'm on. I'm on my way out there now.
Well, good. Let's go out to dinner one of those nights and throw food at each other.
We can do that.
Like the old days.
we can definitely do that. I know that almost happened the first time I went to your house.
Yeah, well, this is just one of the traits. That's one of the things I do. It's my 10-year-old.
Well, I mean, I've always said that, if you're in a restaurant with Lee Carroll, he's the guy that's most likely to start the food fight.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, listen, Lee, it's been absolutely, positively wonderful once again. I also want to remind the people that on February 1st, right here on the Awakening Zone, Gene Adrian, who will be doing a show on Tuesday nights here at 7 p.m. Central, beginning on Tuesday night, February 1st, you will be the guest on Gene's first show here on the Awakening Zone.
That's right. I'm going to give her a real hard time. Make it really.
Are you really?
No.
Wow, that'd be great. I'll be there. I'll be there for that one.
Right.
I might even call in for that one.
Oh, that's great.
And
great.
then also I want to remind everybody on March the 30th, 7 p.m. Central, that's a Wednesday. That's the 5th Wednesday of the month of March. Lee Carroll will be debuting his show, New Beginnings, right here on the Awakening Zone.
That's right.
And
you're going to be my guest. I'm going to ask you hard questions.
You're going to ask me hard questions. That's right.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to give you fun answers.
Oh, good. All right.
So anyway, Lee, listen, really, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it to kick off my first regular show here on the Awakening Zone. And to all of you who are listening tonight and all of you who are listening to the archive, thank you all for being here tonight. Until next week, I ask that you laugh often, folks, because this is called light work. Don't take it too seriously. It is only a game. So please do lighten up. Spread the light, and remember that you are the light. Allow yourself to shine, and do not forget to breathe. You are the breath of God. You are God, and so is everyone else. Lee, in parting, any words?
The only words I have is that thanks for I want everybody to know that this is you're in on the beginning of something that's going to get bigger than anybody thinks.
Wow.
And so you can say that you were here in January in the first week to see what's going on. So and it is. It's going to develop. A lot of people are going to be very, very interested in this, and I think we're going to help a lot of people, Joe.
I think we really are, Lee. Hey, folks, listen. Don't forget the name of the book is Kryon Book 12, The 12 Layers of DNA. Incredible, incredible book. It's a wonderful, wonderful read. It's one of those books that you're probably not even going to want to lend to your friends. You want to keep it with you all the time. So please do go out and buy the book. It's available on Amazon. It's available in popular bookstores everywhere. So until next time, folks, please spread love and pack light. We can each make a difference in this world, one heart at a time. Start with your own and just do it. Good night. We'll see you next week.
Good night.